Good day. My name is Megan Coetzee and my student number is 246-08492. In this video, I will demonstrate Chapter 2, Key Concepts of Child Development, in the form of a stop-motion video. I hope you enjoy. Thank you. Welcome everybody. Today we're going to talk about Chapter 2, the Key Concepts in Child Development. Nature versus nurture, continuity versus discontinuity, passive versus active engagement, and universal versus cultural context. Nature versus nurture is a debate about whether a person's biological factors or the influence of the environment shape their personality more. How will we visualize this first concept? We will visualize this with the help of two little seedlings. Our first seedling is Poppy. Say hi, Poppy. Our second seedling is Ivy. Say hi, Ivy. Poppy is going to explain the concept of nature. Poppy's story takes place in a wood, or a forest if you will. But that's not Poppy. Let's look closer. There she is. Sunshine over the forest helps Poppy to perform her biological cycles to grow into a big, strong tree that produces oxygen. However, the little seedling will be faced with some challenges. Storm clouds start rolling in, taking away Poppy's sun in the process. Just when she started wondering what is going on, the clouds opened up and started pouring rain. It rained and poured, and the poor little seedling thought she was positively going to drown and wilt away because of the excess water. But a funny thing started happening. The little seedling absorbed all the water, and the sun started to shine again. And Poppy actually started to grow bigger and stronger. This shows that Poppy, despite the challenges of her natural habitat, is biologically programmed to come out stronger on the other side. Now we move on to Ivy's story, where she will tell us about the concept of nurture. In this greenhouse we see Ivy. Well, not really. Let's take a closer look. There she is, our second little seedling, Ivy. Ivy isn't found in her natural habitat like Poppy. She is instead in a pot in a little greenhouse, where someone takes care of her, gives her water, just enough so that she won't drown, and where the glass of the greenhouse protects her against rough winds, extreme rain, and even hail or snow that can damage her leaves. Protection of the greenhouse allows Ivy to grow freely as she wishes, with just enough sunlight, just enough water, causing her to grow big and strong as well, just like Poppy did, even though their situations are worlds apart. This goes to show that both nature and nurture have their strengths and their weaknesses. When we look at Poppy, who demonstrated the concept of nature, did not have any protection against her environment. Instead, she relied solely on her genetics to support her, which helped her grow strong and resilient all on her own. Next, we looked at Ivy, who demonstrated the concept of nurture. Of course, she still relied on her genetics to help her with challenges as well, but she had an added element of support, the greenhouse that protected her. But she too grew strong and resilient. Next, we look at continuity versus discontinuity. Continuity is the idea that development is a gradual and smooth process, while discontinuity views it as distinct, separate stages. How will we visualize the difference between these two concepts? We'll start with continuity. For continuity, we will use a graph to show a gradual growth of a flower from a tiny seedling to a blooming flower. Note that the growth is linear and gradual. Next, we will look at discontinuity. For discontinuity, we will use steps to show the life cycle of a butterfly, each step representing distinct stages of a butterfly's life, from where it starts as an egg and where it ends as a butterfly. Note how growth is divided into distinct sections, each section vastly different from the next, much unlike the gradual process of continuity. Next, we move on to active versus passive engagement. Active engagement refers to a child interacting and participating directly, which promotes deeper learning. Passive engagement involves absorbing information without direct interaction, which leads to superficial understanding. How will we visualize these two concepts? First, we'll look at active engagement. Active engagement refers to asking questions about the information that you receive. Furthermore, it involves thinking about the information, the gears in your head grinding away to make sense of what you've just learned. Then, lastly, active engagement refers to forming and storing the ideas. Once you've interacted with the information, you've stored the information in your brain. Active engagement can also look like learners working together in a classroom to figure out and solve problems. However, when we look off to the side, we see a learner not engaging in the activity, just sitting and looking what's going on around him. This we call passive engagement. Passive engagement can look like a learner sitting in class, not writing anything down or engaging with the content, merely listening. Sometimes they can even get so bored they may even yawn. This is not a productive style of learning, hence it is called passive learning, as no knowledge is cemented in your brain. Another way to visualize this is looking at knowledge as a drop of water and our brains as a bucket. Active learners try their hardest to fill up their buckets and keep the knowledge in their brains. While this is going on, passive learners may wonder why their buckets are never full. The water, or knowledge in fact, keeps dripping out. Nothing stays in the bucket for long. It may stay there for a while and then just flow out, like a leaky tap. The fact that the passive learner's bucket never fills up with knowledge is a perfect reminder to always actively engage in your content to fill up your bucket. Next, we will look at universality versus cultural context. Universality refers to traits or ideas believed to be common to all humans, such as biological milestones or fundamental needs like attachment. Cultural context highlights how the aforementioned are shaped and expressed differently due to local beliefs, values, and environmental factors. How do we visualize the difference between these two concepts? First, we'll start with universality. Universality refers to all types of people from all around the world sharing a need for things such as love, acceptance, health, happiness, curiosity, and joy in the simple things of life. Universality shares the idea that even though people come from different types of backgrounds, all of us share the same basic needs. When we look closer, however, we see the differences that different types of cultures bring about. Cultural factors provide context for the fact that people express their needs differently, from country to country and city to city all around the world. From country to city to suburbs, there are different factors that shape the people there. Examples being different religions, different languages, different types of architecture and history, and different types of arts, such as music, paintings, television series, and theatre. All of these factors and many more shape who we are as individuals. Even though some of us may be of the same cultures, we still have our own beliefs shaped by the things that came before us and the things that will surround us in the future. That concludes Chapter 2. Let's take a recap at the concepts we covered today. nature versus nurture, continuity versus discontinuity, passive versus active engagement, and universal versus cultural context. Thank you for watching.